I couldn't see anything in that basement. The power had cut out completely, but I could hear them. Children's voices whispering my name from every corner of that concrete tomb. That's when I realized I wasn't alone down there. And what was with me, wasn't human. What you're about to hear are 3 true accounts of close encounters that defied explanation. 3 ordinary people who faced something extraordinary in the dark. These stories were never meant to be shared. Until now. I'm your host, and I need to warn you what happened to Sarah, Marcus, and Alina could happen to anyone. It could happen to you. Story 1. The highway stalker. Sarah Martinez thought she knew fear as a marketing executive in Dallas. But nothing prepared her for what happened on Highway 35. That October night in 2023, it was past 2 a.m. when she finally left her client meeting in Austin, exhausted and ready to get home to her boyfriend, who had already called 17 times. That's when she first noticed the headlights in her rearview mirror. At first, just another car on the road, but after 20 miles, those same headlights were still there, maintaining the exact same distance. Sarah tested her theory, slowing down to 55, and the car behind slowed to. She accelerated to 75, and it matched her speed perfectly. The real terror began when Sarah took an exit toward San Marcos, a detour she'd never taken before, hoping to lose her follower. But the headlights followed through residential streets, past a 24-hour diner, around a shopping center every turn. Every stop sign, the car mimicked her movements like a shadow. Her gas tank was nearly empty when she pulled into a brightly lit Shell station. Watching with relief as the other car cruised past without stopping, she filled her tank with trembling hands, constantly checking over her shoulder, telling the concerned attendant she was just tired from a long drive. Back in her car, Sarah locked the doors and started the engine, allowing herself to relax for the first time in hours as she pulled back onto the highway. That's when she heard the breathing, slow, deliberate breathing that wasn't her own, coming from directly behind her head. Sarah's eyes snapped to the rearview mirror, and she saw them. 2 eyes reflecting the dashboard light, staring back at her from the back seat, a pale, gaunt face wearing a smile that belonged in nightmares. "Hello, Sarah," the voice whispered, reading her name from the credit card she'd left on the passenger seat. "I've been waiting so long to meet you." Every instinct screamed at her to turn around, but at 65 miles per hour, any sudden movement could kill them both. "You're probably wondering how I got in," the voice continued conversationally. "You checked your back seat at the gas station, didn't you? I watched you, but you didn't check the trunk." Sarah's blood turned to ice as she realized her college blanket was still in her trunk, and the back seats folded down, if someone small enough had hidden there. "What do you want?" she managed to whisper. "I want to show you something beautiful," the voice replied. "Take the next exit, Hendricks Road." The exit appeared in her headlights, a dark rural road leading into farmland where Sarah knew she would never be seen again. In her peripheral vision, she could see movement as the person reached into a bag. So Sarah did the only thing she could think of. She grabbed her phone and speed-dialed 911, putting it on speaker. 911, what's your emergency? "There's someone in my car," Sarah said loudly and clearly. "I'm on Highway 35 northbound, mile marker 127. They got in through my trunk. Send help." The breathing behind her stopped. When the dispatcher confirmed someone was in her vehicle, Sarah felt something cold press against her neck, not a weapon, but something worse, ice-cold fingers tracing along her throat. "Hang up the phone, Sarah," the voice demanded, but instead, she pressed the accelerator past 80, past 90, weaving between lanes as other drivers flashed their lights and honked. "You're making this harder than it needs to be," the voice said with growing frustration and anger. And the fingers moved from her throat to her hair, grabbing a handful and yanking backward, making Sarah's head snap back even as she kept her foot on the gas. She could see the red and blue lights racing toward them from the opposite direction. And, as the first patrol car crossed the median and fell in behind them, Sarah felt the presence in her back seat simply vanish. She risked a glance in the rearview mirror. The back seat was empty. The police found her stopped on the shoulder, hyperventilating behind the wheel. And they searched every inch of the vehicle, but found no trace of an intruder, no fingerprints, no DNA, no sign anyone had been there at all. Except for one thing. The security footage from the gas station showed Sarah filling her tank alone. But when she got back in her car, the camera clearly captured a figure rising slowly from her trunk, which had somehow opened and closed without her noticing. The figure turned toward the camera for just a moment before disappearing into the back seat. Its face exactly as Sarah had described, pale, gaunt, and wearing that impossible smile. But, according to the timestamp, this happened 3 minutes before Sarah had even arrived at the gas station. Sarah never drove alone at night again, moved back home with her parents, took a local job, and sold her car the next week. But sometimes, she still hears slow, deliberate breathing that isn't her own. And sometimes, in her rearview mirror, she still sees those eyes. Story 2. The Basement Voice. Marcus Chen had always hated basements, but graduate school loans left no room for contractors when his 1950s Colonial House's furnace started making concerning noises in December 2023. The basement was typical for its era: low ceilings, exposed pipes, concrete walls painted institutional green, with a single bare bulb casting long shadows between the furnace and forgotten storage shelves. Marcus had been working for about an hour when he first heard it. A child's voice singing softly from the darkness. Ring around the rosy, pocket full of posse-s, ... He froze, wrench in hand, and the singing stopped abruptly. "Hello?" Marcus called out, his voice echoing off concrete walls. Silence. Then a different voice. A boy whispered from the far wall, "He'll hear you." Marcus's hands began shaking. He was alone in the house with locked doors and basement windows, too small for entry, yet he'd clearly heard 2 distinct children's voices. "Who's there?" he called louder. "This is my house. You need to come out right now." The response came from directly behind him. "This was our house first." Marcus spun around so quickly he knocked over his toolbox, tools clattering across concrete. Underneath the noise, he heard children giggling. He grabbed his phone's flashlight, sweeping every corner. Nothing but shadows and storage boxes. Yet the giggling continued, seeming to come from the walls themselves. As he backed toward the stairs, a small voice spoke from behind the furnace. "Don't leave us alone again." Marcus ran. That night, he researched the property records and found the house had been built by Robert and Helen Morrison in 1952, who lived there with 3 children until suddenly moving in 1967. The house had changed hands frequently since, never staying with one family long. Digging deeper into newspaper archives, Marcus found what made his blood run cold. 3 children missing from Riverside home, dated November 15, 1965. 7-year-old Emma Morrison, 5-year-old Thomas Morrison, and 3-year-old Lucy Morrison, had vanished from their basement playroom while parents attended a dinner party. Despite extensive searches, no trace was ever found. The basement showed no signs of forced entry. The children had simply vanished into thin air. A later article was even more disturbing. The Morrison family had departed following unexplained phenomena and voices of children calling from the basement. Marcus realized he was the first person to enter that basement in years, and he'd disturbed something waiting in the darkness. Over the following week, the voices grew stronger. Emma singing nursery rhymes, Thomas whispering fears, little Lucy crying for her parents. Neighbors reported hearing children's laughter from his empty house during the day. The breaking point came during a January ice storm when the power went out. Checking circuit breakers in the basement, Marcus heard 3 children whispering urgently. "He's coming back. Maybe he'll help us this time. He looks like Daddy." At the bottom of the stairs, Marcus called softly, "I know you're there. Emma Thomas, Lucy, I know what happened." The whispering stopped. Then Emma's voice, clearer than ever. "We've been waiting so long for someone to remember our names." Marcus turned his flashlight toward the voice and saw 3 translucent figures. A girl in a 1960s dress, a boy in suspenders, a toddler in a nightgown. exactly as they would have looked the night they disappeared. "We can't leave," Thomas said, confused. "Something keeps us here." "The bad man," Lucy whispered. "He's still down here too." The temperature dropped 20 degrees, Marcus's breath fogging. "What bad man?" The children's faces filled with terror as they looked behind him. "The one behind you," Emma whispered. Marcus felt a malevolent presence breathing heavily in the darkness. An adult voice, rough and cruel, spoke into his ear. "They never should have come down here that night, and neither should you." Marcus spun around but saw nothing, yet could feel something radiating hunger and hatred. The children began crying as Marcus ran for the stairs, but something grabbed his ankle. He crashed to the concrete, his flashlight spinning away. In absolute darkness, he heard children screaming and something dragging across the floor toward him. He crawled desperately toward the stairs as that adult voice laughed like breaking glass. "You can stay here with us forever." Finding the bottom step, Marcus climbed in darkness, expecting hands to grab him. Behind him, children's screams grew fainter while the man's laughter grew louder. He burst through the basement door, slamming it shut and throwing the deadbolt. Something heavy threw itself against the wood, shaking the entire frame. Marcus packed that night and was gone by morning, never returning. The house remains empty, but buyers report hearing children's voices during showings, always from the basement, always calling for help. Marcus now lives in a ranch house with no basement, but still wakes hearing Emma's songs, Thomas's whispers, and Lucy's cries, with that cruel voice promising someday he'll have to go back down into the dark. Story 3. The Night Shift Encounter. Elena Vasquez needed the night security job at Mercy General Hospital. The pay was decent. Hours fit around classes. And it provided health insurance for her 3-year-old daughter, Sophia. What the job description hadn't mentioned was spending 12 hours alone in the abandoned East Wing of a hospital built in 1923. The East Wing had been closed since 2019 for renovations that never came, leaving the entire section empty and forgotten. Elena's job was simple: walk rounds every 2 hours, check locked doors, ensure no one was stealing equipment. During her first month, Elena learned the building sounds: pipes expanding, electrical humming, ventilation creating echoes that turned mouse footsteps into crashes. Her supervisor Dave had warned her, "You'll hear voices from the main hospital through air vents. Don't let it spook you. 99% of the time, it's just the building talking." But there were sounds that didn't fit the pattern. It started with elevators supposedly disconnected from power, yet Elena heard arrival dings during her rounds. Dave investigated, finding both elevators properly shut down. "Probably residual electrical current," he said, though Elena caught his nervous glance at floor indicators. Old buildings do weird things. The voices started in her 3rd month. At first, they seemed like distant hospital conversations, distorted by ventilation. Doctors discussing patients, nurses giving instructions, families talking in waiting rooms. But these voices were different. Too clear, too close, having conversations that made no sense. During her 2 a.m. rounds past the old pediatric ward, Elena heard a woman's authoritative voice. "Dr. Morrison, we're losing the boy in room 237. His temperature is spiking again." Elena stopped. Room 237 was 15 feet away, empty for 4 years. The voice wasn't distorted, but sounded like someone standing beside her. She radioed the main hospital. "Are you doing emergency drills? I'm hearing medical chatter." "Negative." "Elena, all quiet tonight." Probably radio transmission from another floor. But Elena knew radio static, and this wasn't it. Approaching room 237, she found the door locked. The room empty through reinforced windows, just bare walls and tape outlines where beds used to be. As she peered inside, the voice came from directly behind her. "His parents should have been here by now. Someone needs to call them." Elena spun around. The hallway was empty, yet the voice had been impossibly real. The voices continued, growing frequent. Elena heard complete conversations, doctors arguing treatments, nurses comforting patients, families saying goodbye. Always clear, Always close, always discussing non-existent patients in empty rooms. Worse, the conversations felt familiar. Alina recognized Dr. Morrison, always frustrated. Nurse Patricia with her southern accent. Anonymous families perpetually losing loved ones. During her 4th month, Alina researched the East Wing's history. What she found in archived records chilled her blood. A 1987 fire, during a busy night, had trapped patients and staff on upper floors. 23 people died, patients, nurses, doctors, visitors, unable to evacuate. The incident reports matched Alina's conversations perfectly. Dr. William Morrison died trying to save a 7-year-old boy in room 237. Nurse Patricia Williams was found in hallways, trying to reach patients when smoke overcame her. Entire families died trying to save hospitalized relatives. Alina was hearing their final night, replaying endlessly. Rather than terror, Alina felt sadness. These people died helping others, trapped while doing their jobs. If their voices echoed through time, they deserved acknowledgement. Alina started responding during rounds, whispering to empty rooms. "I hear you, doctor. You did everything you could." The voices became less frantic, more peaceful, quiet conversations of comfort rather than panic. But in her 5th month, something changed. During midnight rounds, Alina heard a new voice, a man with quiet authority that made her skin crawl. The fire was supposed to clear out the witnesses, but some of them are still talking. This voice was different, wrong, not belonging in a hospital. Dr. Morrison's familiar voice responded with unusual fear. Alina needs to stop listening. It's not safe for her to hear what really happened. Alina's blood ran cold. The voices had never acknowledged her before, simply repeating final conversations like endless recordings. Now they were talking to her about her. Nurse Patricia joined urgently. She doesn't understand. The fire wasn't an accident. Someone started it deliberately, and he's still here. Alina backed toward the security office, but the new voice whispered in her ear, "Hello, Alina. I've been watching you for months. You remind me of Patricia, always caring too much." Alina ran as dead voices rose in alarm. Morrison shouting warnings, Patricia calling her name, patients and families creating panic echoing through corridors. But underneath, that new voice kept laughing. Bursting into the security office, Alina locked the door and grabbed the phone, but the voice came through the disconnected intercom. "You can't leave now. You've heard too much. You know what I did. And now, you'll stay with them." Alina looked at monitors showing impossible images. The empty hallways filled with translucent people moving through the East Wing. Doctors, nurses, patients, families. Among them, solid and real, stood a figure in maintenance coveralls carrying gas cans and electrical equipment. He looked at the camera, smiled, and switched off the monitor. Dave's voice crackled through her radio. Alina showing power fluctuation in East Wing. "Everything okay, Dave? Someone's in the building. I think he started the 1987 fire." Static. Then Dave, quietly, "Alina. That guy died in prison 3 years ago. Heart attack." Alina heard footsteps outside her door, slow, deliberate, with liquid sloshing. "Dave, I don't think death stopped him." The steps stopped outside, gasoline smell seeping under the gap. "Open the door, Alina. Time to join the others. They've been lonely." She heard a match strike. Alina never knew how she survived. Dave found her unconscious in the stairwell the next morning, suffering smoke inhalation. The security office had burned completely, along with East Wing sections untouched since 1987. Official investigation blamed faulty wiring, no intruder evidence. No gasoline residue, but Alina remembered the voices, Morrison, Patricia, and others guiding her to exit, their presence forming a barrier against the man who'd killed them decades earlier. Alina quit immediately, changed from nursing to elementary education, now teaches at Sophia's school. But sometimes she still hears their voices, Morrison's instructions, Patricia's comfort, and that other voice, promising someday she'll return. The East Wing remains closed, no security company taking contracts after too many guards report voices knowing their names. Histories, fears, voices always asking for help no one can provide.